Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today I want to talk about the character who has received the least amount of history, backstory in Campaign 3 so far, and that is, in my opinion, FCG. We've only learned that he has vague memories of his past, about the death of Dancer and the rest of his troop that he was with before, and we learned that there was other automatons like him. That's basically all we know about his past. He is traumatized by what happened with whatever killed his family or troop or whatever you want to call it, and I want to figure out what it could have possibly been that killed Dancer and the rest of his group. For my research in this, I only used 4 books: Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, Monster's Manual, Volo's Guide to Monsters, and Mordenkainen's Tomb of Foes, because those are the ones that I own. I am a huge supporter in the idea of actually buying them and not having PDFs, like illegal PDFs. So I don't have my hands on Multiverse or Monsters of the Multiverse, and I don't have my hands on the Tal'Dorei campaign guide. And of course, other books have other monsters, like Ravnica, Icewind Dale, and stuff like that. But I'm not going to use those, obviously Theros as well. I'm not using those. I'm going to stick with kind of the core books plus Wildmount, because it's Critical Role, and I figured that would be a good idea, and I don't own the other Wildmount book. So, if you're thinking about stuff that are in those 2 books, the Multiverse of Monsters and Tal'Dorei, maybe I'll make an update to this video later down the road. But for now, I'm just going to use the 4 books I listed earlier. So the first creature I wanted to look at today was the Aeorian Absorber. This thing has a CR of 10, which means a large group of people would struggle fighting it if they were tired and they were camping, so it was likely that they were trying to get a long rest. So, this thing seems right up the alley. It's got magical resistance, it's got a multi-attack, it's got ranged fighting with its Mind Bolt, and with its Tail Ray, it can take half damage from magic spells, and if the opponent is within 60 feet, they have to succeed a dexterity saving throw, or they take the other half. This could wreck a group if they're unsuspecting of something attacking them, and it just seems like it could be a powerhouse if they were a lower group. It sounds like they were a large group, but they could be of weaker make, as if FCG is a indication of their strength, and if he was only level 2 at this point, this thing could cause some serious damage really quickly, especially if half of them were asleep. I assume FCG wasn't the only one in his stasis mode. So, if this party had half of its people fighting, and this thing started to show up, they could be in serious trouble. Only problem, it's from Aeor, and Marquette and Aeor are not close. So the likelihood of it being this is very low, hence why I'm not going to say this is the most likely thing. To me, this is the least likely creature it could be, because of the distance between Marquette and Aeor. And how the hell will this thing even get there? Have to hop on like 16 different boats, because not every boat from Aeor leaves the Aeor area. They like to chill and kind of go between other outposts. So the likelihood of this thing being able to leave without being spotted, I mean, it's blue and red. You're getting seen in that good old snow. So, very unlikely this thing is what killed FCG's family or troop or dancer or whatever the hell you want to call them. The second creature is from the Monsters Manual, and that is the Cyclops. Now, while kind of boring in flavor, if this is what's going to be what killed it, it is still semi-strong for a group. It's challenge rating of 6. So if it kind of caught them at a bad time, I can see this doing some damage, but not necessarily killing a whole group. Unless, like I said before, the other automatons were also in stasis, which gives him, the Cyclops, a decent advantage of taking on far less opponents and allowing him to smash the automatons while they're sleeping. This thing can multi-attack, and it hits decently hard and has a decent health pool for like a low adventuring party. Other than that, I don't see this thing accomplishing very much. It does have a ranged attack by outside of 30 feet. He's got disadvantage on that. So if he's going to attack from stealth, which I doubt, I don't see him doing it from range. I think it could do it, maybe, if it's able to sneak up on them and do some damage without the automatons waking up, I can definitely see this thing being able to wipe out a handful. But I don't know if it's going to wipe out a group of, 6 people. So this is lower on the totem pole of things that I think has the potential to do it. It could if Matt tweaks it, but I highly doubt it. The third creature that has some potential if you tweak it is the gnothic. I think, admittedly, this thing doesn't do too much damage and would have to take a lot of time trying to dodge attacks and not be killed because of its low health pool. But with a multi-attack and this rotting gaze, I think he could maybe take them out, very similar to the Cyclops. Probably has a worse time trying to do it than a Cyclops. I felt the need to include the gnothic, though. The gnothic, in my opinion, is what you think of first when you think of one-eyed creature next to a Cyclops. And honestly, this thing does do some damage. If you've ever played the Lost Mines of Fendelver and pissed this thing off and not being able to talk your way out of this encounter because it can speak to you in Undercommon, and if you have that, you can speak to it. But this thing is very perceptive and can be quite stealthy, so maybe taking things out of one by one as it went through the camp and potentially fighting it, doing some decent damage with its claws and its rotting gaze as it kind of went through this group and they couldn't react and awaken the automatons. A lot of this one and the Cyclops hinge on the fact that all of the automatons were asleep, so maybe. I don't know if the gnothic has a great chance, but with Matt potentially tweaking it and boosting stats here and there, I can potentially see it. But this one is the lowest on this totem pole throughout all of this video. But I felt like I needed to include it because it is the classic D&D one-eyed creature, in my opinion. The fourth creature is the yokel. I think this thing could absolutely kill a large group like this. It can shape change, has magic resistance, it can climb on friggin' anything it wants to. It has innate spellcasting capabilities and a mist form that if you're inside, it can incapacitate you and deal some poison damage over time. And it'll be a slow, painful death. And it can multi-attack. You can make 2 of its slam attacks, and this thing deals quite a bit of damage. So, with all that being said, absolutely this thing could totally wreck shit. It's a demon, and depending on who you are as a DM, this shit could be anywhere. Marquette and the Odiran Wilds could absolutely be a place something like this exists. I mean, the Nightmare King is just walking around. So keep that in mind. This thing could absolutely kill the entire group, even if the automatons were awake. I don't know if the automatons will take damage from mist form, but slamming them would absolutely wreck them. And like I said, it can change form. So, this thing's dangerous. This thing could hurt basically everything, and it's terrifying. So if it's going to leave a mental scar on somebody like it did with FCG, this thing could do it. It looks like a tree, too, so if they're in the woods or the jungle, this thing could stealth on them no problem whatsoever. So the next one is the big one that I'm assuming most people think it is, the Beholder. Classic, big-eyed creature. Now, technically not one-eyed. I do think this counts, as its other eyes are on its tentacles, and if that big eye is staring you dead in the face, you're pretty fucked. And I imagine automatons have a decent amount of magic flowing through them to indicate their life. So, would an anti-magic cone shut them off? Just saying, I don't know. I'd have to look into it a bit more with how Matt uses automatons. But this thing shoots 3 eye rays per round, and it has legendary actions, and it can take 3. So, honestly, it's a matter of time of wiping out Dancer and the rest of the troop. This thing could wreck house, and any of its underlings, the Spectre, the Death Kiss, any type of Beholder could probably do this job. Tweak up a Spectre a bit, and bam, you got something hard-hitting. Tweak up a Death Kiss a bit, you've got something hard-hitting. And this thing is no slouch in any of its saves with the exception of strength. So, definitely see some problems for a adventuring party when a Beholder comes along and decides it's going to kill it all. Especially if it just threatens what they're doing in that area. And again, minor creatures like a Spectre or a Death Kiss could also do this sort of thing as well. Sneak up on a party, take him out, make sure their magic doesn't work, and we've got a dead group. And the only one left standing was the one that was in stasis that woke up just barely long enough to see it. I think it's a good possibility that a beholder is behind this, which is why it's so much later in the video. As you can tell, I've kind of gone from least likely to most likely, and this one happens to be on that upper range of what seems to be the most likely. So, we are finally moving on from the Monsters Manual and moving on to Volo's Guide to Monsters with the Mind Witness. Now, this bad boy could be a problem. Now, lower CR of 5, but boost up a bit of the health, and it could be a bit of a danger. It shoots, again, 3 eye rays every turn. Now, no legendary actions, and technically this is a beholder, but one that has been affected by an Elder Brain. And I think that'd be interesting. If these guys are especially doing stuff, going through tunnels, going through sort of places in the Underdark, I have no doubt that they could have pissed off some sort of Elder Brain Mind Flayer, and they sent a Mind Witness after them once they left. If they're in the jungle might have a million entrances to the Underdark, and bam, we've got ourselves an angry Mind Witness coming after them to deal quite a bit of damage, and if they catch it off guard, like the other things, this could deal some damage. Now, I could have included this with the Beholder, but I like the implication that it can also indicate a Elder Brain. Haven't seen an Elder Brain since Campaign 1, and it'd be really interesting to go back to the Underdark, because I don't think Campaign 2 spent all that much time in the Underdark, so if this becomes a problem for FCG and to get revenge, bam, they're going to the Underdark to fight an Elder Brain. Trying to set up more things down the line for FCG, because just killing a monster might not be the most fulfilling. So, Mind Witness sets you up with Mind Flayers and Elder Brains to deal with much later down the line, and it could still be a heck of a fight if they encounter it early. So, yeah, Mind Witness. Seems pretty cool to me. And last but certainly not least, the meru. Now, this thing is a insane problem. CR 25 making it the strongest creature today with 432 HP and 22 AC. So this will be a much later game creature if this is what it is. Now, this definitely has the capability of destroying this party with no difficulty. It has legendary resistances, magic resistance, innate spellcasting abilities, multi-attacks. This thing could just be a problem. And I think it could be rather fitting. We don't know much about Dancer, but Dancer created the automatons of her favorite smells, including FCG. What if she made a deal with somebody to use the technology to create them, and then they signed a contract, making them a root, the kind of upholder of the contract, and then Dancer broke the contract, sending them a root after them. Sounds good to me. I think this could be an excellent sort of way to introduce plane hopping if they have to, because usually the Maruts are from Sigil, but I don't know if Sigil exists in the world of Critical Role. I would imagine it does. So, a Marut. Nice, big, powerful, beefy monster, and if you really have to, you could tune it down a bit, do some less damage, have less AC and less HP, and they could fight this thing pretty early. Level 10? Maybe, if he's willing to give them a difficult encounter like this, especially if they're able to rest beforehand. With their action economy, they might be able to turn this fight into something rather hard fought and still come out winning. I think the Marut could be a fun little creature, and again, it's also a robot, which would be really cool for FCG to learn the thing that killed Dancer and the rest of his troop was another automaton. So yeah, I like the Marut idea. And there you have it, my list of creatures that could have potentially killed the creator of FCG, Dancer. I could have included other things like the Astral Dreadnought, but that seemed a little too out of the realm of possibility. And if you don't believe me, look at the picture in the book. It's got one eye. But I wanted these to have some sort of realm of possibility. The only ones that I see are a little bit too far out of the realm of possibility to even show up is the Marut. But again, a contract, that thing's coming after you no matter what. Just the likelihood of Dancer signing a contract like that, we don't know. Might be 0. The other thing is the Absorber. It's an Aor. The likelihood of that thing getting to Marquette, kind of low. But I still think those are possible. Matt could somehow write it to get there somehow, and attacked it. Maybe that's what the group was doing there in the first place. They went there to find the thing because it's not an AOR anymore. But I digress. That's my list. Like if you agree, dislike if you disagree, and tell me what your list of creatures that could have killed Dancer are in the comment section below. See you guys on Thursday. Or Friday, because I upload Friday. But I will be watching Critical Role on Thursday with you all. So see you Thursday.